Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Crafternoons. I'm Miss Angela with the Indian Valley Public Library. And you might be looking at these supplies in front of me and wondering to yourself, wait a second, I thought this was a craft video. But it's actually part craft, part cooking video. And I'll tell you why. We are going to do an activity from this book. This book is called Awesome Edible Kids Crafts and is written by Arena Blake. And I really like this book because I've always been told that you really shouldn't play with your food. And that's what this book is all about. It's all about making things that you can both eat and play with and create. And it's such a fun book. There are some themes to this book, and we're going to pick the one that let's play. But there's a party theme, a zoo theme, a farms theme, a space theme, a holiday theme, a fantasy theme, and a garden theme. I picked something from the let's play because I wanted a chance to play with my food. Now, I saw this recipe, and I don't know about you, but I love kinetic sand. And this is a recipe for edible kinetic sand. And what's really cool about this recipe is it's a moderately easy recipe. So there's always an easiness, a level of difficulty that you can see how easy it is to make it. And this also actually says no adult supervision required. So you don't need a grown-up to make this recipe. I do recommend that you check with your grown-up before you make the recipe because you want to make sure it's okay with them that you use the food stuff. And it has some basic ingredients. We'll get to that in a minute. What's really cool too about this recipe is it tells you a little bit about kinetic sand. And it says kinetic sand is made up of sand that has been coated in a substance that causes the sand to only stick to itself. The viscoelasticity makes the sand seem to move over time, but it keeps it from feeling sticky. I never knew that about kinetic sand. I always wondered how it worked, and this tells you how it works. So we're going to get started in just a minute, and I'll show you what ingredients you're going to need. Okay, as you can see from this tray, you don't need a whole lot of materials in order to complete this recipe. So what you are going to need is you're going to need some flour, you're going to need some vegetable oil, you're going to need some hot chocolate mix. You're also going to need some tools to do this recipe. You're going to need a liquid measuring cup to measure the oil, a regular 1 cup measuring cup to measure the flour, a fork for stirring, and if you want to measure the hot chocolate, you're going to need a tablespoon. Now, this recipe calls for 4 cups of flour, 1 cup of vegetable oil, and approximately 4 tablespoons of hot chocolate mix. Now, like I said, if you want to measure it, you're going to need a measuring spoon. But what I have discovered that 4 tablespoons is about 2 of your normal packets. So those are the only ingredients that you are going to need to complete this recipe. So why don't we go ahead and get started with our recipe? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our recipe. Now, I am only making half of the recipe. I decided I didn't really want a whole lot of kinetic sand because I actually made it ahead of time, and this is about what half of a recipe makes. So if I add the half I'm going to make now to this half, I'll have the whole recipe. And I think for me, that is enough kinetic sand for right now. So I'm only using half of the recipe. But what you're going to do is you're going to measure out the flour first. Now, I only have, again, it calls for 4 cups of flour. I only have 2 cups in here, but I measured it out and put it in my mixing bowl. You're going to need a mixing bowl for this. And then I'm also only going to put about half a cup of oil. So that's my half a cup of oil. So you're going to use a cup if you're going to make the whole recipe. So I'm going to pour that in. And like I said earlier, I did not measure. I didn't measure because this is approximately what I need for half a recipe is 1 packet. So we're going to just put the 1 packet of Swiss Miss mix in here. And then I have all of my ingredients in the bowl, and I'm just going to use my fork and I'm going to stir it around. All right, I got to this point in my recipe and I realized there is only so much stirring with a fork is going to do. And that's when I decided it's time for us to get our hands clean so then we can get them dirty. So this is my actual favorite part of making this recipe. the mixture is not mixing too well with the fork, so I have to get my hands in there and actually play with it while I'm making it. I think that's the best part of this whole video, is in order to really get that oil worked into the flour, you have to really kind of play with it. And it feels so cool. If you've ever felt kinetic sand, that's what this feels like. It really feels like kinetic sand. So you kind of have to get, in order to get the right consistency of it, you really have to play with it with your hands. Now here we have kinetic sand. So now you can play with it. Now I recommend, the first time we played with it, we played with it in the bowl and it made quite a mess. So that's why, if you notice, I have this tray. I have a tray with lips on them, a baking tray. I recommend something with lips on it, or like a flat tray or a bin or something wider than just a mixing bowl, because it does get kind of messy. But because it's kinetic sand, it's really easy to clean up. Now the next question you might be thinking, because this is what I was thinking when I made it, is, okay, so it's fun. It feels like kinetic sand. It's really cool to play with, but how does it taste? Unfortunately, I tasted it. It's not bad. It's edible. It tastes better than Play-Doh, if you've ever tasted Play-Doh, which is also edible, but it's not really something I want to eat as a snack. On the other hand, my son thought it was wonderful and ate a whole cup of it. So, and my other son felt the same way I did. So it's a mixed bag. Two of us felt like it was fun to play with, but not so much fun to eat. And one of us thought it's fun to eat and play with. So that's basically how you make kinetic sand. Now, even if you don't want to eat it, you can have some fun playing with it and building things like you do with kinetic sand, or just kind of sticking your hands in it and feeling it. It's a really fun activity. So I hope you have some fun with this and enjoy cooking and crafting at the same time. Bye.